Welcome to the T-Pac Arcade. Today's game is Human Cannonball for the Atari 2600. In this 1979 strategy physics game from Atari, you take charge of a circus cannon and try not to mangle your ill-fated stuntman. The goal is to launch Mr. Stuntman into the water tower basin by balancing three cannon variables: speed, angle, and position. The 8 game modes determine which variables are fixed, random, or adjustable. Some modes let you move the water tower back and forth post-launch, but others toss in a narrow, scrolling window that you have to aim through. As if it wasn't hard enough keeping teeth marks out of the side of the water tower, now you've got a big floating wall in your way too. And I realize this probably sounds about as exciting as measuring out the right span of dental floss, but hear me out. Human Cannonball is way more fun than it has any right to be. Visually, it has the bland simplicity you'd expect from an early Atari title, but a few small quirks make it one of the most charming 2600 games I've ever played, namely the little wiggling victory pose that the stuntman assumes after each successful shot, and the tiny ouch text that appears over his head whenever he splats into the ground. I found some very real pathos for our wee stuntman in these details. When I'm tweaking those cannon angles and shifting that water tower, my heart is in it. Mr. Stuntman's well-being rests in my hands. I'm the only thing standing between him and a glorious landing or a face full of concrete and shame. I want him to go home to his wife and kids after a hard day's stunting, feeling proud and successful. When little Jim Bob Jr. asks, "Papa, did you make it?" I want him to smile a rugged smile and say, "I sure did, son. I sure did." The minimal sound design here does its job admirably too. A springy bleep for each launch, a splashy bloop for each make, and for each crash, a soul-crunching bwamp. The most novel aspect of Human Cannonball is the physics. For a 1979 title, they're surprisingly weighty and convincing. Whenever I make the mistake of trying to play basketball, I can see an airball coming from the minute it leaves my hands, and this game's arcs are just as intuitively readable. There's nothing quite like watching poor little stuntman come careening down a high arc, slowly but surely, knowing he has a 0% chance of success. Thankfully, Human Cannonball isn't too difficult. Each round ends at 7 makes for a win, or 7 misses for a loss, whichever comes first. I managed to win each mode at least once, with a few notes on good angles and a lot of trial and error for the window variations. My favorite part of the game is all the personality squeezed into the blocky little sprites, and if I could change one thing, I'd lessen the range of the random angle generation. Anything between 50 and 70 degrees made getting through the window practically untenable. Overall, Human Cannonball is some of the most fun I've ever had with angles. Sorry, geometry class, you've met your match.